man sits on his couch. The light from his phone glows on his face. He scrolls endlessly, his thumb moving without thought, his eyes glazed. He complains. He complains about his job, about the government, about the economy, about the unfairness of life. His words are heavy, but his actions are light. He speaks as if the world owes him something, yet he offers nothing in return. This is the picture of weakness. And weakness has one outcome: poverty. Weak men stay broke because they confuse wishing with working. They sit, they talk, they dream, but they do not move. They believe that wealth will one day find them, as if money is a lost traveler searching for their doorstep. But wealth does not chase weakness. Wealth is drawn to strength. Wealth follows action. Weak men wait for wealth, strong men build it. The struggle without change is not struggle, it is decay. To struggle is to fight, to press against resistance, to endure hardship with the intent to rise. But to sit still and complain is not struggle. It is surrender disguised as suffering. The man on the couch does not struggle, he decays. His muscles soften, his mind dulls, his spirit corrodes. And yet he tells himself that life has been unfair. He mistakes his own refusal for bad luck. Weakness is not an accident. It is a choice repeated daily. Every time a man chooses comfort over effort, distraction over discipline, excuses over accountability, he builds his own prison. Poverty is not simply a lack of money. Poverty is a lack of will. It is the absence of discipline, of responsibility, of the courage to take charge of one's own existence. Money is just the symptom. Weakness is the disease. Strong men know that no one is coming to save them. They understand that the world owes them nothing. They do not waste time waiting for opportunities. They build them. They do not sit in silence, hoping that luck will appear at their door. They rise early. They endure discomfort. They sharpen their minds and bodies, and they put their strength into motion. And because they do this, wealth gravitates toward them. The man on the couch looks at successful people with bitterness. He calls them lucky. He calls them privileged. He convinces himself that their wealth was stolen, that life has favored them unfairly. What he does not see is the discipline behind their success. He does not see the nights they spent learning while others slept. He does not see the mornings they endured while others pressed snooze. He does not see the countless failures they transformed into lessons. All he sees is the result, never the grind. And because he refuses to see the grind, he condemns himself to a life without it. Weak men stay broke because they mistake activity for progress. The man scrolling endlessly believes he is staying informed. He believes he is keeping up with the world. In truth, he is wasting his time, trading his attention for nothing. He confuses motion with movement, noise with action. But progress requires direction. It requires intentional effort. 1,000 empty scrolls will not add a single coin to his pocket. 1,000 complaints will not plant one seed. Wealth does not arrive by accident. It arrives by preparation, by persistence, by patience. It arrives to those who are strong enough to endure boredom, to withstand rejection, to repeat their efforts day after day without applause. Weak men cannot handle this. Weak men demand quick results, and when results do not come quickly, they quit. And quitting is the guarantee of poverty. The couch becomes their throne. The phone becomes their weapon. They speak words of resentment, but their lives remain unchanged. They waste the most precious currency of all, time. Each hour lost to distraction, each day wasted in self-pity, each year spent in bitterness is wealth burned in silence. A man who refuses to act has already chosen poverty. Strength is not about muscle alone. It is not about arrogance or dominance. Strength is about mastery over the self. A strong man controls his habits, his impulses, his emotions. He trains his body so it will not betray him. He sharpens his mind so it will not deceive him. He disciplines his spirit so it will not collapse under pressure. And from this strength comes wealth, not always in gold, but in opportunities, in relationships, in respect, in freedom. Weakness destroys all of these. Weak men chase pleasure and call it happiness. They indulge every craving and call it freedom. They avoid effort and call it peace. But what they are truly doing is chaining themselves to poverty. Every indulgence has a cost, and the bill always comes due. Weak men pay with their health, their dignity, their relationships, their potential. And in the end, they remain broke, not just financially, but spiritually. The man on the couch will look back one day. He will remember the hours wasted, the excuses repeated, the chances ignored. He will see that his poverty was not given to him by the world, but chosen by him in silence, day after day. Weak men stay broke because they refuse to see the truth. The enemy is not out there, the enemy is within. Strong men face this truth. They do not fear it, they embrace it. They rise from the couch, put down the distractions, silence the complaints, and turn weakness into fuel. They build habits that build wealth. They choose discipline over ease, responsibility over blame, growth over comfort. And because of this, money follows them. Not because they chase it, but because they have become the kind of men money seeks. Weak men stay broke because they are content to be victims. Strong men build wealth because they refuse to be anything less than responsible for their fate. Poverty is not destiny, it is the shadow of weakness. Wealth is not luck, it is the reward of strength. And so the lesson is clear. The man on the couch is not unlucky. He is unprepared. He is not a victim. He is a volunteer. Weak men wait for wealth. Strong men build it. And only those who rise, who work, who endure, will ever escape the prison of weakness and step into the freedom of strength. A man comes home from work. His day was tiring, yet not truly demanding. He sits down, kicks off his shoes, and immediately reaches for the controller. The television screen glows, a digital world opening before him. Hours slip by unnoticed. He tells himself he is relaxing, that he deserves it, that tomorrow he will do better. But tomorrow repeats today, and today repeats yesterday. Time flows endlessly, yet he never moves forward. This is not rest. This is not recovery. This is decay disguised as leisure. This is comfort devouring his life. Comfort is not evil in itself. A bed, a meal, a moment of peace, these are good things. But when comfort becomes a man's pursuit, when it becomes the reason he wakes and the reward he seeks, then comfort transforms into a poison. Weak men love comfort more than growth. And because they love comfort, they despise the very discomfort that is necessary for progress. Growth is never born in ease. Muscles are built by strain. Wisdom is forged through mistakes. Wealth is created by labor and patience. Discipline is sharpened by resistance. A man cannot rise without challenge, yet the weak avoid challenge as if it were fire. They choose instead the easy path, the soft chair, the glowing screen. They chase immediate pleasure, food, entertainment, distraction, and in doing so, they sacrifice the slow and steady gains that build true strength. The world does not reward comfort seekers. It rewards builders, creators, fighters, men who endure the discomfort of effort. Comfort feels safe, but it is the most dangerous place a man can live. A man who clings to comfort never discovers his capacity. He never tests his limits. He never finds out how far he could have gone. His comfort robs him of his ambition. The weak man convinces himself that his comforts are harmless. What is wrong with a little rest, he says. What is wrong with relaxing after work? Nothing is wrong with it, until it becomes his life. The weak man spends more time in comfort than in effort. His body softens, his will weakens, his mind dulls. Every day becomes a small surrender. He tells himself he will change when the time is right. But the time is never right. Comfort whispers to him, stay a little longer. And so he stays, and his life slips away. Strong men understand that comfort is a reward, not a lifestyle. They use it as recovery, not as escape. A strong man may play, may rest, may enjoy ease, but only after he has earned it. Comfort is brief, intentional, and controlled. It does not own him. It does not dictate his choices. He dictates when and how he allows himself ease. The weak man does not have this control. He is ruled by his craving for comfort, and so he becomes its slave. Comfort destroys ambition because ambition requires hunger. To strive for more, a man must feel the gap between where he is and where he could be. But when a man numbs himself with endless distraction, when he fills his mind and body with temporary pleasures, he loses that hunger. He forgets the dissatisfaction that could have fueled him. He forgets the discomfort that could have pushed him. Instead, he accepts less, because comfort makes less feel tolerable. A man who chooses comfort over growth convinces himself that he is fine. He may not have wealth, but he has entertainment. He may not have health, but he has food. He may not have purpose, but he has distraction. He accepts mediocrity because comfort makes mediocrity bearable. He does not ask for more because he does not want to pay the price that growth demands. And so he stays stuck, broke, weak, and forgotten. The danger of comfort is not obvious in one day. One evening of laziness, one afternoon of distraction, one indulgence. These do not destroy a man. But repeated daily, they carve his destiny. Each small surrender compounds. Each wasted hour builds upon the last. Comfort is like water slowly eroding a stone. By the time the man notices, his foundation is already gone. Growth, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. It requires sacrifice. It demands time, effort, discipline, and patience. Growth asks a man to give up the easy things so he can earn the great things. But weak men refuse this trade. They choose the short pleasure over the long reward. They spend hours playing games but cannot spend minutes reading. They watch stories on a screen but never write their own. They eat to feel good now, rather than train to feel good forever. They burn their lives in comfort and then wonder why nothing grows. The truth is brutal. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. Every man who has ever achieved anything of value has endured long seasons of discomfort. The athlete trains until his body aches. The entrepreneur works while others sleep. The philosopher questions, studies, and reflects while others laugh idly. The soldier marches when others rest. Growth demands pain. Weak men reject this pain, and so they reject growth itself. But comfort does not announce its destruction loudly. It whispers. It seduces. It tells a man he has earned rest even when he has done nothing. It tells him tomorrow is better for starting than today. It tells him that hard work is unfair, that effort is unnecessary, that life should be easy. And because weak men love the whisper, they obey it. They obey until their will is gone, until their bodies are fragile, until their dreams are too far to reach. A man addicted to comfort becomes predictable. He never risks, never sacrifices, never endures. He chooses softness in every area of life. He takes the easiest job, the easiest path, the easiest relationships. He runs from responsibility and hides in distraction. But in choosing ease, he condemns himself to hardship. For the man who avoids difficulty today will face ruin tomorrow. Comfort only delays pain. It never removes it. Strong men understand this. They accept discomfort now so they can build a future free of unnecessary pain. They push their bodies so they do not collapse early. They discipline their minds so they do not fall into ignorance. They train their habits so they do not live in poverty. They do not love comfort. They master it. They sit in the fire of discomfort until it becomes their strength. Weak men stay broke because comfort consumes them. They cannot save money because comfort demands spending. They cannot build skills because comfort demands ease. They cannot seize opportunities because comfort demands safety. Comfort is not harmless. It is the thief of potential. It steals silently, but its theft is total. The couch, the screen, the endless indulgence, these are not neutral choices. They are the tools of weakness. They create a life of repetition without progress. They create a man who grows older but never stronger, who grows tired but never fulfilled. They create a man who reaches the end of his days and realizes he has wasted the only thing he ever truly owned: time. Weak men choose comfort over growth, and so they choose mediocrity over greatness, poverty over wealth, regret over fulfillment. Comfort feels sweet in the moment, but it tastes bitter at the end. Growth feels bitter in the moment, but it produces sweetness that lasts a lifetime. The message is simple. A man cannot serve two masters. He cannot serve comfort and expect growth. He cannot serve laziness and expect wealth. He cannot serve distraction and expect purpose. He must choose. And if he chooses comfort, he chooses weakness. If he chooses weakness, he chooses to stay broke. A man sits in a cafe with his friends, speaking loudly, so everyone can hear his frustration. He says the government is corrupt, and that is why he is poor. He says his boss is unfair, and that is why he is underpaid. He says the economy is broken, and that is why he cannot succeed. Every sentence begins with blame. Every thought ends with surrender. Around him, the world moves forward. Some men are working, some men are building, some men are climbing. Yet he remains stuck in the same place, year after year. His excuses become his prison, and his words become the bars. Excuses are the favorite tool of weak men. They explain away failure. They soften the pain of stagnation. They allow a man to feel like a victim instead of an architect of his life. Excuses are easy to create, easy to repeat, and easy to believe. They require no effort, no courage, no risk. But the cost of excuses is everything. Excuses keep men broke because they prevent action. And without action, no wealth, no progress, and no freedom is ever possible. When a man points his finger outward, he blinds himself to his own power. He convinces himself that the cause of his problems lives outside of him, in politics, in society, in chance. And if the problem is always outside, then the solution will never be inside. He hands away control over his own life. He says, I cannot rise until they change. But what if they never change? What if the government stays corrupt, the boss stays unfair, the system stays difficult? Then the man will wait forever. He will die waiting. Strong men know that life is unfair. They know that systems are broken, that bosses are unjust, that economies rise and fall. They do not deny reality. But instead of using these truths as excuses, they use them as fuel. They adapt. They find ways around obstacles. They refuse to let the imperfections of the world become the chains on their lives. Weak men, however, look at the same world and say, it is too hard. In saying this, they surrender before the battle even begins. Every excuse sounds reasonable when spoken. I cannot start a business because I don't have capital. I cannot save because I don't earn enough. I cannot improve myself because no one supports me. These phrases sound true, and in a way they are true. But the deeper truth is that men who stop at these excuses will never move forward. The man who has no capital can start small, learn, build, and grow. The man who earns little can discipline himself to save something, however small. The man without support can become his own support. Excuses may describe reality, but they do not define destiny. Action defines destiny. Weak men choose excuses because excuses are comforting. They protect the ego. They allow a man to say, it is not my fault. And while this feels good in the moment, it is poison in the long run. The man who always says, it is not my fault, will never say, it is my responsibility. And only responsibility creates change. Only responsibility forces a man to stand, to move, to fight for something better. Excuses are seductive because they shift the burden of change. If the problem is the government, then only the government must change. If the problem is the boss, then only the boss must change. If the problem is luck, then only chance must change. This thinking absolves the man of any effort. He waits for the world to move instead of moving himself. But the world does not bend for those who wait. The world bends for those who push. Consider two men. Both live in poverty. One says, I cannot escape this. The system is rigged. He sits, complains, and waits. The other says, the system is hard, but I will find a way. He works extra hours. He learns skills. He builds connections. He takes risks. 10 years later, the first man is still complaining. The second man has built a life. Both face the same world. The difference was not opportunity, but responsibility. Excuses also destroy respect. A man who always blames others is never taken seriously. People may pity him, but they will not trust him, follow him, or invest in him. No one wants to support a man who refuses to carry his own weight. Responsibility, on the other hand, commands respect. Even if a man struggles, if he owns his struggle and works, people admire him. They see strength in him. They see someone worth supporting. Weak men remain broke because excuses chain them to inaction. They waste time talking about who is to blame instead of asking, what can I do now? They waste energy in arguments, in complaints, in bitterness, instead of putting that energy into effort. Every hour spent blaming is an hour stolen from building. Every excuse repeated is a wall built higher around their own cage. The truth is, no one cares about excuses. Life does not reward explanations. The universe does not say, he had a hard life. Let me give him wealth anyway. Life rewards action. It rewards persistence, creativity, discipline, and courage. Excuses may win sympathy, but they never win success. Weak men confuse pity with progress. They think that being understood is the same as moving forward. But pity cannot feed a family. Sympathy cannot pay bills. Only effort can. Blame is easy. Responsibility is hard. Blame points outward. Responsibility points inward. Blame keeps you stuck. Responsibility sets you free. Blame makes you dependent on others. Responsibility makes you powerful within yourself. Weak men cannot see this, because responsibility demands pain. To take responsibility means admitting, I am the reason I am here. It means looking in the mirror and facing failure without softening it. Most men cannot bear this, so they choose excuses instead. But strong men know that responsibility, though painful, is the seed of power. Once you say, it is my fault, you also say, it is within my control. You can work, change, learn, adapt. You can create a new path. The man who blames others is powerless. The man who blames himself is unstoppable, because he sees himself as the master of his fate. Excuses and action cannot coexist. A man must choose one. If he chooses excuses, he chooses stagnation. If he chooses action, he chooses progress. Action does not guarantee immediate success. Action may fail many times, but each action, each attempt, brings him closer to strength, closer to wealth, closer to freedom. Excuses never bring him closer to anything. They only protect his pride while his life crumbles. Weak men stay broke because they never move beyond excuses. They cling to them like shields, not realizing those shields are cages. They stay where they are, angry at the world, but never angry enough at themselves to change. They speak of injustice, but never build justice in their own lives. They complain about lack, but never create abundance with their own hands. The great secret is this: life is not fair, and it never will be. But fairness is not required for greatness. Responsibility is. The man who accepts this truth begins to rise. The man who rejects it remains broken. In the end, excuses are nothing more than lies. Lies we tell ourselves to avoid the pain of effort, the weight of discipline, the fear of failure. Weak men believe these lies, and so they stay broke. Strong men reject them, and so they rise. The choice is brutal but clear. You can point fingers, or you can take responsibility. You can make excuses, or you can make progress. You cannot do both. And in that choice lies the difference between weakness and strength, between poverty and wealth, between a wasted life and a fulfilled one. A man's alarm clock rings at 6 a.m. He reaches over, hits the snooze button, and rolls back into bed. 10 minutes later, it rings again, and he hits it once more. The cycle repeats until the sun is high, and half the day is gone. He wakes not because he chose to, but because he could not sleep any longer. He drags himself out of bed, scrolls through his phone, spends hours on social media, eats junk food, complains about his problems, and by nightfall, he has achieved nothing. He says he wants wealth, he says he wants freedom, he says he wants respect, but his actions betray him. His weakness is not in his dreams, but in his discipline. And without discipline, no dream can ever become real. Wealth does not come by accident. It is not stumbled upon like a coin lying in the street. Wealth is built, slowly, deliberately, through countless acts of discipline. Every dollar saved instead of wasted, every skill practiced instead of ignored, every hour worked instead of squandered. These are the bricks from which wealth is built. Weak men remain broke because they lack the ability to command themselves. They desire riches, but they cannot control their own appetites, their own laziness, their own impulses. They want results without the discipline that creates them, and so they stay exactly where they are. Discipline is the bridge between desire and achievement. Everyone desires success. Everyone wishes for a better life. But wishes are useless without the structure of consistent action. Discipline provides that structure. It forces a man to do what must be done, whether he feels like it or not. It turns fleeting motivation into enduring results. Weak men fail because they live according to their moods. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel discouraged, they quit. If they feel bored, they distract themselves. Strong men succeed because they live according to principles. They act not based on emotion, but on commitment. Consider the man who wakes early each day. He disciplines himself to rise before comfort tempts him to sleep longer. He trains his body in the gym, not because it is easy, but because he knows strength fuels confidence and endurance. He reads and studies when others waste time on entertainment, because he knows knowledge compounds into wisdom. He saves and invests money when others spend recklessly, because he sees beyond the pleasure of the moment to the security of the future. This man is building wealth. Not overnight, not with luck, but with discipline. Weak men despise discipline because it demands sacrifice. To wake early means sacrificing sleep. To save money means sacrificing pleasures. To train the body means sacrificing ease. Discipline always demands a price up front, while weakness always seeks comfort up front. But here is the truth. The man who sacrifices today gains tomorrow. The man who indulges today loses tomorrow. Weak men choose immediate gratification. The dopamine hit of scrolling, the comfort of lying in bed, the sweetness of junk food, the thrill of impulsive spending. Strong men delay gratification. They endure discomfort now to secure comfort later. And in this difference lies the gap between poverty and wealth. Wealth is not just numbers in a bank account. It is the byproduct of a disciplined life. The man who cannot discipline his time will waste it. The man who cannot discipline his money will lose it. The man who cannot discipline his body will lack the energy to work. The man who cannot discipline his mind will be ruled by emotions. Discipline governs every area, and its absence poisons every area. A man who says he wants wealth but refuses discipline is like a farmer who says he wants crops but refuses to plant seeds. His words mean nothing because his actions betray him. Weak men often look at successful people and think they are lucky. They say, "He was born rich. He was given opportunities. He had connections." They do not see the years of disciplined effort hidden behind the surface. They do not see the mornings of hard work, the nights of study, the sacrifices made, the temptations resisted. They prefer to believe in luck because it excuses their own lack of discipline. If success is luck, then their failure is not their fault. But deep down, they know the truth. Success is earned through discipline, and their poverty is earned through neglect. Discipline is not glamorous. It is repetitive, often boring, often lonely. It is waking up before dawn when no one is watching. It is saying no to pleasures that everyone else indulges in. It is pushing through exhaustion when quitting would be easy. Weak men hate boredom. They hate sacrifice. They hate discomfort. And so they remain weak. But the man who embraces these things becomes unstoppable. He learns that discipline, though harsh in the moment, is the sweetest companion in the end. Without discipline, every goal becomes just talk. Weak men talk about starting businesses, but never take the first step. They talk about saving money, but spend everything on luxuries. They talk about improving themselves, but waste hours on distractions. They mistake speaking for doing. But discipline is action, not words. It is progress, not promises. Strong men may speak less, but they do more. Their wealth grows silently because discipline works quietly in the background, compounding over time. Discipline also builds self-respect. A man who cannot trust himself to follow through on his own word lives with quiet shame. He knows he is weak. He knows he betrays himself. Every time he skips the workout, every time he procrastinates, every time he wastes money, he feels the weight of his weakness. And this shame eats away at his confidence. But the man who disciplines himself grows in respect for himself. He proves to himself that he can be trusted, that he can endure, that he can build. This inner respect radiates outward, and others see it too. Respect attracts opportunity, and opportunity attracts wealth. The absence of discipline is the presence of chaos. Without discipline, a man's life is scattered. His habits are uncontrolled, his time is wasted, his money slips away, his body decays, his mind weakens. He lives like a leaf blown by the wind, going wherever impulse takes him. He cannot focus long enough to achieve anything meaningful. And because he cannot master himself, he cannot master his environment. Weak men stay broke because they are ruled by chaos instead of order. Discipline does not guarantee wealth, but without discipline, wealth is impossible. There are men who discipline themselves for years and still struggle financially. But even then, they are stronger, wiser, and more prepared than the weak man who did nothing. Eventually, disciplined effort bears fruit. It may take time, but it is inevitable. The weak man who expects wealth without discipline, however, will never see it. His life will be a cycle of dreaming, procrastinating, and regretting. At its core, discipline is freedom. Weak men see discipline as chains. They think rules, routines, and sacrifices limit them. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline liberates a man from the tyranny of his impulses. It frees him from laziness, addiction, and waste. It gives him control over his future. Wealth is simply one of the rewards of this freedom. Weak men remain broke because they mistake slavery to comfort for freedom, while strong men embrace discipline and gain true freedom. Imagine two men again. Both want wealth. The first wakes late, spends recklessly, avoids hard work, indulges in every distraction. The second wakes early, saves diligently, works with focus, resists distractions. 10 years pass. The first man complains that life is unfair. The second man has built wealth. Nothing magical happened. No stroke of luck. Just discipline versus weakness. No discipline, no wealth. It is that simple. A man who cannot command himself cannot command success. A man who cannot master his daily actions cannot master his future. Weak men stay broke not because the world is against them, but because they are against themselves. They choose comfort over progress, excuses over effort, chaos over order. And until they learn discipline, they will remain trapped. Discipline is the price of freedom. It is the cost of wealth. It is the foundation of strength. Without it, every dream collapses. With it, every obstacle can be overcome. Weak men stay broke because they refuse to pay the price. Strong men rise because they embrace it. And that is the eternal difference. Weakness waits for luck. Discipline builds destiny. A man sits in front of an opportunity. It might be a chance to start a small business, a chance to learn a new skill, a chance to take on a difficult project at work, a chance to invest in something that could change his future. But instead of acting, he hesitates. He thinks, what if I fail? What if I lose money? What if it doesn't work out? His fear grows bigger than his desire. He convinces himself that it is safer not to try. So he does nothing. And in doing nothing, he ensures exactly what he fears most: failure. Weak men stay broke not because opportunities never come to them, but because they never seize them. Life constantly presents chances to grow, to rise, to break free from the cycle of struggle. But those chances are wrapped in difficulty, in effort, in risk. Weak men run from those things. They seek safety, but safety is the path to stagnation. Safety feels good in the moment, but over time, it suffocates. To avoid failure, they avoid action. To avoid effort, they avoid progress. To avoid risk, they avoid reward. And so their lives remain small, predictable, and broke. Fear of risk is a prison. It convinces men that staying where they are is wise, when in reality, it is cowardice. They tell themselves stories. I can't start a business. I might lose my savings. I can't invest. The market is too unpredictable. I can't speak up at work. I might embarrass myself. These stories feel like logic, but they are nothing but excuses dressed as reason. The truth is simple. There is no growth without risk. Every man who has achieved wealth, freedom, or greatness had to step into uncertainty. He had to accept the possibility of failure. He had to gamble his time, his energy, his reputation, sometimes even his comfort. Weak men refuse this gamble, so they never collect the rewards. Fear of effort is just as dangerous. Many men are not afraid of losing. They are afraid of working. They say they want success, but when faced with the grind, the long hours, the practice, the sacrifice, they shrink back. They think success should be quick, easy, glamorous. But wealth does not bow to laziness. Money does not flow to men who sit idle. Strength, skill, influence, and riches are bought with effort, and effort is always expensive. Weak men choose ease over effort, and ease over time becomes chains. Consider the man who refuses to work extra hours on his craft because he wants to relax. He chooses television over self-education, parties over study, comfort over growth. He fears the exhaustion that effort brings. He wants the results, but not the grind. He thinks effort will drain him, but in reality, effort is the only thing that can build him. Weak men stay broke because they treat effort as punishment instead of fuel. They run from the very thing that would make them strong. The irony is that avoiding risk and avoiding effort is itself the greatest risk of all. By refusing to try, weak men guarantee their failure. By refusing to work, they guarantee their poverty. The man who risks failure at least has a chance at success. The man who fears effort at least has a chance to build himself. But the man who avoids both risk and effort has chosen failure before he even begins. His life becomes an endless cycle of wishing without acting, dreaming without building, and regretting without changing. Weak men love safety. They want a job that never challenges them, a life that never tests them, a path that never threatens them. They say, "At least I'm secure." But what they call secure is actually stagnant. They trade growth for predictability, potential for comfort, wealth for survival. They never starve, but they never feast. They never fall, but they never rise. Safety keeps them alive, but broke. Every great success story is a story of risk. The man who built a business risked failure. The man who became wealthy risked his savings. The man who became strong risked pain. The man who became wise risked ridicule. Strength is born in danger. Wealth is born in uncertainty. Weak men do not understand this, so they wait for a safe path to success. A path without risk, without effort, without failure. But no such path exists. Their waiting is endless, and their waiting keeps them poor. The fear of risk is rooted in a weak relationship with failure. Weak men see failure as final, as proof that they are not good enough. Strong men see failure as feedback, as education, as fuel. A strong man may try and fall, but he learns, he adjusts, he tries again. In time, his persistence breaks through. A weak man never tries, so he never fails, but he also never learns. And in avoiding small failures, he guarantees the greatest failure of all, a wasted life. The fear of effort is rooted in a weak relationship with pain. Weak men see pain as something to escape. They do not want sore muscles, late nights, mental struggle, or delayed gratification. They believe life should be easy. But strong men know that pain is a teacher. Effort carves strength into the body, wisdom into the mind, discipline into the soul. Every drop of sweat is an investment. Every hour of effort is a seed planted. Weak men reject pain, and so they reject growth. Wealth is not found in safety. It is found in the arena, where men fight, struggle, risk, and build. It is found in the hours of disciplined effort, the courage to take risks, the willingness to look foolish and still move forward. Weak men remain spectators, watching from the sidelines, criticizing those who try, mocking those who fail. They think themselves clever for avoiding pain, but in truth, they are prisoners of fear. Safe is broke. Easy is broke. Weak is broke. The man who wants wealth must abandon the illusion of safety. He must risk failure. He must embrace effort. He must understand that the cost of success is always high, but the cost of weakness is higher. For while effort is hard, poverty is harder. While risk is scary, regret is scarier. A man must ask himself, what is truly dangerous? Is it dangerous to try, to work, to risk, to fail? Or is it dangerous to stay in the same place, year after year, making no progress, watching life slip away? Weak men answer this question with fear, and so they stay broke. Strong men answer it with courage, and so they rise. Opportunities will always come, but only those who face risk and embrace effort will seize them. Weak men stay broke because they never take the leap. They think safety will protect them, but in the end, safety only ensures mediocrity. Risk is the gate, effort is the key, and weakness refuses both. The truth is clear. Life punishes weakness and rewards strength. Weakness hides, hesitates, avoids, and excuses. Strength dares, acts, endures, and learns. Weak men stay broke because they are afraid of the two things that guarantee success, risk and effort. Until they overcome that fear, they will live small lives, waiting for luck, envying the strong, and dying with regrets. Safe means stuck. Stuck means broke. And weakness is the glue that holds men there. The only way out is courage, effort, and strength. Anything less is a sentence to a life of poverty, not because the world is cruel, but because weakness is. One of the greatest divides between the men who rise and the men who remain broke is simple. Some build, and others consume. At first, it seems small. A man spends his evenings watching shows, scrolling endlessly, chasing entertainment. Another man spends his evenings learning, working, shaping something that will outlast the night. Years pass, and the difference grows impossible to ignore. The consumer has nothing to show but wasted hours and empty distractions. The builder has something solid, skills, assets, wealth, a reputation, a life that compounds in value. This is the law of life. Consumers feed the builders, and builders own the future. Weak men love to consume. Their comfort comes from entertainment, from fleeting pleasures, from distractions that numb their discomfort. They wait for the next season of a show, the next video game, the next cheap thrill. Their time is not invested but spent, burned, and wasted. They take, but they never add. They consume what others create, and in doing so, they become dependent. Every show they binge, every product they buy, every app they scroll, all of it makes someone else richer, never them. Strong men understand that consuming without creating is a trap. Consumption has its place, but it should never dominate a man's life. The strong man consumes with intention. He reads to learn. He studies to apply. He invests his energy into tools that help him grow. But his primary instinct is to build. He asks, what can I create? What can I offer? What can I build that others will find valuable? While weak men waste hours, strong men plant seeds. They know creation is hard, but creation is power. Every fortune that exists today was built by someone who chose creation over consumption. The companies people spend on, the platforms they scroll, the brands they wear, all were built by builders. The consumers lined up to buy, to watch, to indulge. The builders lined up to earn. Weak men fill the pockets of the strong by endlessly consuming. They trade their limited wealth for entertainment and comfort, while the strong men who create those very things collect wealth, power, and influence. Look at the man who stays up late, not to binge a show, but to work on his craft. He sacrifices entertainment for creation. While others are numbing themselves, he is shaping something real. It may be slow at first, an idea, a side business, a small project, but he persists. Every night compounds. Every effort stacks. In time, what began as sacrifice becomes freedom. His work pays him back. He built while others consumed, and now he owns what they depend on. Weak men often claim they don't have time. But the truth is, they do. They just spend it consuming. Hours lost to television, to gossip, to meaningless scrolling. Hours that could have been invested into something that builds them. Time is the most valuable resource, and how a man spends it reveals his future. Builders invest it, and time multiplies their efforts. Consumers waste it, and time robs them blind. The psychology of consumption is rooted in weakness. Consumption offers instant reward. It feels good now. It requires nothing but surrender. It doesn't demand pain, sacrifice, or endurance. But its pleasure fades quickly, leaving emptiness. The psychology of building is the opposite. It demands struggle, persistence, patience. It doesn't reward immediately, but when it does, the rewards last, compound, and create freedom. Weak men can't endure the wait, so they remain trapped in consumption. Strong men embrace the delay, so they break free through creation. The difference between strong and weak is not just effort, it's vision. Weak men think only of today. They want to be entertained now, to feel good now, to escape discomfort now. Strong men think of tomorrow. They are willing to sacrifice today's pleasure for tomorrow's freedom. They know that every hour spent building is a seed planted. Every distraction resisted is a step toward independence. Weak men stay broke because they live only for the moment. Strong men grow wealthy because they live for the future. Weak men think creation is beyond them. They believe building is only for geniuses, for the lucky, for the chosen few. This is another excuse. Every strong man who built began as ordinary. He had no map, no guarantee, no perfect plan. What he had was the courage to start and the persistence to continue. Weak men wait for certainty before acting, so they never begin. Strong men accept uncertainty, and in acting, they become creators. Building doesn't always mean starting a company. It can mean building skills, building discipline, building a network, building a reputation. Every form of creation shifts a man from dependency to strength. Weak men rely on others to provide for them, to entertain them, to lead them. Strong men provide for themselves and for others. They shift from being dependent consumers to valuable creators. And value is always rewarded. Consider the simple difference. One man spends a year watching hundreds of hours of shows. Another man spends that same year learning a skill, writing, creating, building. A year later, the consumer has memories of entertainment and little else. The builder has something tangible, a skill he can sell, a project he can monetize, a foundation for growth. Multiply this difference by 10 years, and the gap becomes unbridgeable. Weak men stay broke because they consume what others built. Strong men grow wealthy because they build what others consume. The culture of weakness celebrates consumption. Everywhere, men are told to indulge. Buy this, watch that, follow here, escape there. It feels normal to spend hours consuming and rare to spend hours building. But the truth remains unchanged. Consumers are fuel, builders are kings. A man must decide which he will be. Every hour spent is a vote for consumption or a vote for creation. Weak men spend their votes recklessly, and their lives reflect it. Strong men guard their votes, invest them, and their lives rise above. Creation is demanding, but it is also the only path to ownership. The consumer will always be a tenant, renting entertainment, renting comfort, renting life. The creator becomes an owner of wealth, of freedom, of legacy. Weak men stay broke because they give their lives away, piece by piece, to consumption. Strong men build piece by piece, until they own a life worth living. The choice is daily. Tonight, a man can consume, or he can build. He can give his hours to someone else's creation, or he can invest them into his own. The difference is invisible today, but monumental tomorrow. One path leads to regret, the other to freedom. Weak men stay broke not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack the strength to choose creation over consumption. Strong men are not always the smartest or the luckiest, but they are the builders, and builders own the world. The truth is brutal but simple. If you only consume, you will always be broke. If you build, even imperfectly, you create the possibility of wealth, of freedom, of strength. Weak men remain slaves to what others create. Strong men dare to create themselves. And in that daring, they inherit the future. Wealth is not what most men think it is. They chase it in piles of possessions, in flashy displays, in endless consumption of things they don't need. Yet the Stoic reminder cuts deeper. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. These words from Epictetus strike like a blade, because they expose the truth. Weakness is not poverty of money, but poverty of discipline. Weakness is being enslaved by impulses, chained to endless desire, unable to command yourself. A man can earn millions and still be poor if he cannot master his wants. A man with little, but with mastery of himself, is richer than kings. Weak men stay broke because they are servants to impulse. They cannot say no to fleeting desires. They eat what feels good now, they spend what feels good now, they indulge in every distraction now. Their lives are not ruled by logic, vision, or discipline, but by appetite. They do not own themselves, so they cannot own anything else. A man without self-mastery is like a house with no foundation. No matter how much he builds, it crumbles because the ground beneath him is weak. Strength, real strength, begins with mastery over the self. It is not about lifting the heaviest weights or speaking the loudest words, but about governing your impulses, training your mind, ruling your body. A strong man is not the one who conquers nations, but the one who conquers himself. This mastery is the seed of abundance, because it makes a man reliable, focused, steady. While weak men burn their time and money on impulses, the strong man channels his energy into what endures. He delays gratification, resists distraction, and lives with clarity. Self-mastery creates wealth in two ways. First, by guarding a man against loss. Most poverty is self-inflicted. It comes from overspending, overeating, overindulging. Weak men drain themselves with vices, gambling, drinking, chasing pleasure. Their money flows out as quickly as it comes in, because they cannot control the impulse to spend. Their health decays because they cannot control the impulse to eat and to sit idle. Their relationships collapse because they cannot control the impulse to lash out, to betray, to neglect. Weakness bleeds a man dry, and he wonders why he stays broke. Second, self-mastery creates wealth by freeing a man's energy for creation. When you are not enslaved to impulse, you can focus, you can work, you can build. The strong man says no to distractions so he can say yes to his purpose. He trains his body so he has the strength to endure long hours. He trains his mind so he can think clearly under pressure. He trains his spirit so he does not break when life is heavy. This training is invisible to the weak, who only see the results later, the wealth, the freedom, the influence. But behind it all is mastery, the ability to rule the self before ruling anything else. Look at the man who cannot master his desires. He earns, but he spends. He plans, but he procrastinates. He dreams, but he never acts. His impulses scatter him in 1,000 directions, leaving nothing finished, nothing solid. His weakness ensures his poverty. Then look at the man who masters himself. He earns, but he saves. He saves, but he invests. He invests, but he waits patiently. His desires do not rule him. He rules them. Over time, he builds a fortress, while the weak man remains in chains. The Stoics understood this truth deeply. They lived in a world of wealth and power, yet they preached restraint. Why? Because they knew that a man who craves endlessly will never be satisfied, no matter how much he gains. His poverty is not in his pocket, but in his soul. Weak men stay broke because they believe money alone will free them when the real chains are within. Strong men grow wealthy because they first break the inner chains. Once you master your wants, abundance follows naturally. To master yourself is to gain freedom. A man who can say no to his impulses is untouchable. He cannot be manipulated by cheap pleasures or empty promises. He cannot be enslaved by advertisers, by trends, by envy of others. He is content with little, so everything extra becomes wealth. Weak men stay broke because their desires keep them running in circles. Strong men rise because they no longer need more to feel rich. In needing less, they have more than enough. Consider how this plays out daily. A weak man wakes up and chooses sleep over discipline. He chooses junk over nourishment. He chooses comfort over progress. Each choice is small, but each one weakens him further. His mind becomes softer, his body weaker, his spirit duller. Soon, his poverty is not just financial, but spiritual. He has no wealth in his mind, no strength in his will, no fire in his heart. Now contrast this with the man who rules himself. He wakes early, even when he does not feel like it. He works when others waste time. He eats with discipline, trains his body, sharpens his mind. His wealth begins within, and eventually it manifests outward. Weakness is slavery, and most men live as slaves without knowing it. They are chained by the need to feel good now, by the need to satisfy every craving. They are ruled by their phones, their appetites, their fears. This slavery keeps them broke because it robs them of control. If you cannot master yourself, how can you master wealth? It will slip through your fingers, just like your discipline slips through your days. Strength is mastery, and mastery is rare. It is not easy to deny yourself, not easy to resist, not easy to hold steady while others indulge. But this is why few men are strong, and fewer still are truly wealthy. The crowd runs after pleasure, the strong man builds discipline. The crowd wastes, the strong man saves. The crowd consumes, the strong man creates. The crowd stays broke, the strong man grows free. The man who governs himself becomes unshakable. He is not moved by insults, not controlled by cravings, not broken by setbacks. His power is steady, and this steadiness attracts abundance. Wealth follows the man who cannot be enslaved by it. Weak men stay broke because they chase wealth without ruling themselves. Strong men become wealthy because they rule themselves so well that wealth cannot help but flow to them. The Stoic reminder remains eternal. To want less is to be free. To be free is to be wealthy. Mastery of self is mastery of life. Weak men stay broke because they never learn this truth. They chase possessions, status, indulgence, and lose everything. Strong men rise because they master their impulses. They may begin with little, but in time, they gain everything. Wealth is not in the things you collect, but in the control you wield over yourself. A weak man spends his life chasing what never satisfies. A strong man spends his life mastering what always sustains. Weakness is slavery to desire. Strength is freedom through self-mastery. And freedom, more than anything else, is true wealth. Weakness and strength are not abstract ideas. They are choices lived out in the smallest details of a man's life. Every morning you wake up, every decision you make, every temptation you face, you are choosing either strength or weakness. And that choice determines not just your character, but your destiny. Weakness keeps you chained to poverty, to mediocrity, to regret. Strength lifts you into freedom, into abundance, into a life that belongs to you. Picture the man who never chooses strength. He wakes up late, already tired because his nights are wasted on distractions. His phone is the first thing he touches, feeding on empty pleasures and endless scrolling. He knows he wants wealth. He knows he wants freedom, yet he spends his time feeding impulses that make him weaker. His life is full of excuses. The economy is bad. My boss doesn't pay me enough. I'm just unlucky. He blames everything but himself. But deep inside, he knows the truth. His weakness is the real enemy. His lack of discipline is the real poverty. Now picture the man who chooses strength. He wakes up with purpose. He doesn't chase quick pleasures. He chases progress. While the world wastes time, he builds. While others complain, he takes responsibility. While the weak make excuses, he makes moves. He works in silence, not for attention, but for mastery. He doesn't need to announce his ambition, because it is written in his actions. This man may not see results immediately, but over time, his discipline compounds. His skills sharpen, his reputation grows, his opportunities multiply. Eventually, wealth seeks him, because strength is magnetic. Weakness is poverty because it robs you of control. A man who cannot control his impulses cannot control his money, his time, his body, or his mind. He spends without thinking, eats without restraint, speaks without wisdom, and acts without vision. No matter how much he earns, it slips through his fingers because he cannot govern himself. Poverty follows him not because the world is unfair, but because his weakness ensures he cannot handle abundance. Strength, on the other hand, is freedom. It is not about dominance over others, but about mastery over yourself. A strong man can delay gratification, endure hardship, and hold steady under pressure. He invests instead of consuming, builds instead of wasting, acts instead of blaming. This strength makes him trustworthy, reliable, and focused, qualities that attract opportunities and wealth. The world respects the disciplined man because he proves he can handle responsibility. His freedom grows because he has built himself into someone who cannot be enslaved by distractions, impulses, or fear. Every man must face the truth. There is no neutral ground. If you are not choosing strength, you are choosing weakness. If you are not building discipline, you are losing it. If you are not creating value, you are consuming and decaying. Life does not stand still. It either rewards growth or punishes stagnation. The weak man waits, the strong man works. The weak man complains, the strong man creates. The weak man stays broke, the strong man grows wealthy. This is why silence and discipline matter. Strength is not proven by loud words or empty bravado. It is proven by quiet consistency. The man who builds in silence, who walks away from distractions, who chooses the harder path when comfort calls, that man is becoming unshakable. He may look ordinary to others, but inside he is forging iron. He is stacking victories no one sees until one day the results become undeniable. Weak men stay broke because they keep feeding weakness. They trade time for comfort, responsibility for excuses, opportunity for fear. They let distractions own them. They sell their future for cheap pleasures in the present. And so, their lives remain small, their freedom forever out of reach. Strong men grow free because they feed strength. They sacrifice comfort for growth, excuses for responsibility, fear for courage. They reject distractions and build focus. They invest in discipline, in skills, in value. They see the long game, and they play it with patience and resilience. And so, their lives expand, their wealth grows, and their freedom becomes reality. The decision is always in your hands. No one can force you to be strong. No one can force you to build discipline, to create value, to reject distractions. But life will always test you. Each temptation is a fork in the road. Each excuse is a chance to give in or a chance to rise above. Each day is proof of what you are choosing. The truth is simple. Weakness guarantees poverty. Strength guarantees freedom. Weak men will always be ruled by their impulses, by other men, by circumstances. Strong men will always rule, first themselves, and then the world around them. Weak men will always wait for wealth. Strong men will always build it. Weak men will always remain trapped. Strong men will always walk free. So stand up. Walk away from the noise, the distractions, the excuses that keep you small. Work in silence. Build your discipline, sharpen your skills, guard your name, and create value. Do this, and strength will carry you into freedom. Do this, and wealth will not need to be chased. It will come to you, because you have become the kind of man who attracts it. Weakness is poverty. Strength is freedom. The choice is yours. Choose strength. Build discipline. Build value. Build wealth. And never look back.